Hello, everyone. Glad to be with you again. Moffat on Money, the well known Saturday night live and rambling, joined by the distant but gracious Miss E Train.
Hi, everyone. Clay is pulling a Rob. I know. Carson.
What's a Rob?
He's late because he can't figure out what he's doing.
Oh, geez. I'm late because apparently I can't figure out how to charge my AirPods correctly.
See? Same thing.
So, and the dogs.
Hmm.
Actually, Ellen is out of town, so I have to babysit the beast. We will see how that goes tonight.
Yep.
Which it's getting off to a bad start. Go on, Chunk. Go on. Go on. They are the highest maintenance little peckers you ever saw.
They're
They're
not that
sweet,
bad.
but they are
They're
high
not that bad.
maintenance. Yeah, they're pretty bad,
Nah.
unless you like maintenance. So Ellen is with her grandfather,
I am.
the well-known Pops,
Yep.
and Toulouse and Chunk and myself are holding down the fort. So good to be with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till a few more of you get in here, and then I'm going to I tried to cut that background noise. There are one, two, four people here right now besides me, and it's fine. It is lively. But I will have him come on so y'all can at least put a face to a name. Can you hear a lot of background, Clay?
Not right now.
Okay. I
It's
just
peaceful
switched it
right now.
over.
Yeah, occasionally, like now I hear some background noises, but it's not bad.
Well, y'all are gonna have to deal with it. So
Yeah, we'll probably have to deal with the dogs being a little noisy too. I wouldn't be surprised by what they hear a cricket jump and start sounding off.
a cricket jump.
Yeah,
That sounds
it doesn't take
fascinating.
much of anything.
True.
Carson, how are you tonight? Been cutting up on inside round that a friend gave to me in smaller cuts.
What is an inside round? Like, oh, like meat?
Meat, yeah.
I'm thinking ammo. I'm like, what? Good, Carson. I made it so that it wouldn't pick up background noise. You're tired but good. That's good.
You're too young to be tired.
No, he's not.
Melissa,
Melissa.
good to see you. Glad you
She
could join us.
she's missed the announcement
Which one?
about the special guest who's
How do
coming
you
on
know?
in a bit.
Ah,
Hmm?
we'll tell her.
So, Melissa, you get to meet Grandpa, my pop. I am at his house right now, and I will pull him on here shortly when we get a few more people on. I'll
This
probably have to totally, cut off play in the middle of something probably important, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good excuse though. Some of your other times, not as good of an excuse, but that's a
Oh,
good
Melissa's
excuse.
so happy. Yay! And Carson, midlife is not, you are not that old.
You and me both. I haven't done any reloading in quite a while, but I need to. I've got a bunch of empty shells. I need to cases. I need to put to good use.
You have a ton of them.
I'm in my midlife. I'm totally old enough to be tired. Mid-
No,
oh, nope.
you've got little tiny children. You are not that old
How
unless you're
old are you?
planning unless you're planning on living to be 60.
How old are the children?
No, they're little.
Little, little as in toddlers little, little, little as in teens little.
No, much smaller.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fun,
not smaller than toddler, but
the fun ages then.
yeah.
Yeah. Those are some good years, some of the best years of my life.
And I apologize for the terrible background. It did okay on that's sweet. Carson, I guess 35 at most, maybe 36, 4 to 15. See, he's got little ones.
Say a teen.
Hmm.
Now the teen years was tough. Okay. My baby was always like my best friend. I was her best friend up until she got to be 13. And then all of a sudden, life changed and I was on the outs.
Hmm.
Hated that. Didn't adjust well to that. Hated it. Missed my baby. But 4 and 5 years, some of the best years of my life. Hard ones, but some of the best years of my life.
Yep,
So
I tried. She's happy about Pop being here.
we all are.
See, Carson, 40 is not mid. I mean, come on. I'm going to introduce you to a 96-year-old man who has more energy than I do. So, come on.
Yeah, 40 is just barely past the snotty nosed kid age.
Barely.
Barely. So you still got a ways to go. I'm sitting here, just, there's something I wanted to remember and say, but I don't remember what it was, and it's irritating me.
See, Carson, that's midlife.
That's the absent minded professor.
Hmm.
I have a good excuse, but I do know the topic for tonight.
And it took me forever to get the thing up. I'm sorry. I don't know if Clay screenshotted it to put it up on. I don't know what he did.
No, I had to download. You didn't email me the thumbnail,
Oh, I forgot.
so I had to download it from YouTube, and that's why it's a little pixelated.
Sorry about that.
Carson, Clay, you do numbers. What's the average life expectancy for a North American male? Now, what is the middle of that? Average life expectancy for a male is more tied to genetics, how long grandfathers lived. But on average, I think the life expectancy for a male is around 76. So
Okay,
you're just
fine. If you're going to be like that. Okay, let's see if I can fix this. Boom. There we go. How about that?
much cleaner.
Thank you.
Looks a lot better. Yeah, thank you. So it's been kind of an interesting week. Stocks went boom.
Boom, like good. I'm trying to hide it. Leave it alone. Okay. Boom, good. Boom, bad.
I'm not doing anything with it. I don't know who you're yelling at, but it ain't me. My hands are free.
Huh? I said boom, good or boom, bad.
I know, but you said leave it alone.
Oh, I thought you were clicking on the thing because it came back up after I clicked off of it. Sorry.
Boom good. If you own stocks, the the market was kind of fueled by Federal Gov Waller's comments that the Fed may start to ease, which is what the market has been fantasizing about for 2 years, literally year and a half, 2 years. The Dow this week was up 2.7%. The S&P was up just under 1%. Russell 3000 was up 1.3%. And those may not sound like big numbers, but 1% a week is 52% a year. So it's a pretty good week. Now, the main thing that I saw or noticed was you had a lot of the internet fine twit gurus talking about how great the economy was. The revised GDP came out at 5.2%, which is a screaming economy, if that number's accurate. Screaming economy. So you have the perception of a screaming economy. Inflation is far lower than it was. And the Fed's going to cut. It's like we talked about a week or two ago. Let the good times roll. So as an investor, which is strictly the role I'm speaking in, I'm not giving financial advice. But as an investor, I never, never look at the bottom line. I hate people when they say they are bottom line people. Anyone, any mullet can read the bottom line. It takes no real expertise, it takes no real insight, no particular skill. The differentiator, the thing that's important for most people, is knowing what goes into that bottom line, what makes the bottom line, how to change that bottom line, what influences that bottom line. That's what you want to pay attention to. Now, so I ignore all the fluff. I ignore the headlines. I ignore the, what some of the popular folks will be saying, because I really don't care. I'm looking at the details. And what do I see in the details?
The devil.
The devil. Yeah. Devil's always in the details. Now, let's just start with the most popular number, the GDP, 5.2%, up 5.2%, up from 4.8. The first release a few weeks ago, a month ago, was 4.8. Now they revise it and say, actually, it was 5.2. So you've got to realize that at 5.2% annual growth, that is a booming economy. But taking a look at the number and what influenced that number, what's underneath that number? Well, government consumption, government spending rose nearly 20% in the revision.
I was actually just about to ask you about that because I just heard that debt to GDP is 120%.
And that's putting it mildly. We'll get to let me address that in just a minute. So remind me. Government spending alone contributed 1% to the final GDP number, which is the highest in history, with the exception of the COVID stimulus. And we know what that stimulus accomplished. We're paying for it now. Government spending last year grew 5%, and that is just simply wildly unsustainable. The actual economic data from the private sector, for example, personal consumption was down 2.4%. It was down, I'm sorry, let me get this right. It was down to 2.4% versus 2.7% last quarter. So individuals are spending less.
Around Christmas, that's crazy.
They're buying cheaper stuff and buying less of it, apparently. Gross domestic product rose 3% in the third quarter. Gross domestic prices rose 3% in the third quarter, up from 1.4 in second quarter. Gross domestic prices without food and energy were up 2.7%, up from 2.1% previously. Personal savings dropped from 4% to 4% from 5.1. Disposable income was flat after a 3.3% increase. So if you start looking at all the personal or private sector numbers, they all pretty much suck or are pretty mediocre. Nothing in there reflects an economy growing at 5%. So overall, the report as a whole was pretty meh. It's more indicative of stagflation occurring rather than a booming economy. And we, look at the other data that's being released. The Beige Book, which is a compilation of reports from the 12 different Federal Reserve districts. Each district files a report, and then it's compiled together in the Beige Book. 8 of the 12 districts reported no or negative growth. Labor demand shrunk with more applicants now and fewer currently employed. You've got more people looking for a job. None of that is typical of a booming economy. Districts noted a decrease in residential sales and higher inventories of existing homes. Can you say falling prices?
Gas prices have been going down.
Carson, gas prices have been coming. They've been coming down here. They've been flat for the past few weeks, but they're down certainly from their peaks. Oil prices went down to about $76. They're hovering around 82 now.
Do you know why that is?
Several reasons. One, Russia is actually being able to sell a lot of its oil. It sells it to Saudi Arabia or China, who then resells it on the open market. So the supply has increased. Secondly, demand for gas has dropped some. So there's, additional supply available. The indicative took me a second to figure that one out.
And I agree. Carson's feeling lonely in the chat. Come on, guys.
Y'all give Carson some hand. He is he's not even being all that terribly deflective, but he's just trying to get warmed up. We know.
It'll come.
It'll come. So if
if there's nobody else here to use to derail the program, then it's no fun for Carson.
So there's a lot of conflicting data with the perception of a booming economy. The report also contains some anecdotes. One interesting comment: a New York City area company noted a reduction in starting salaries for recent college graduates, such as tech workers, which have become easier to find. Interesting. Translate that. Forget about wage growth. Actual wage cuts are on deck. So not only have we had inflation, but don't expect wage increases. Possibly even as companies are, bleeding revenues and profits, could even start looking at some wage cuts in some industries. How cool would that be? Districts also reporting increased utility and insurance costs, stating they were notable. We've had people talk about that here on the show, how their, power bills and insurance costs have soared. They've soared here. Melissa.
Pop, you don't have to do that.
Juggling things in the kitchen now. And Carson. Melissa, please, not knives.
Well, I know, but I could do it. Sorry, I got here last night around 7. It was dark. Then I stepped in poo, and so I left my tennis shoes outside, and now Pop is bringing my tennis shoe in. Now I feel bad.
With or without poo?
He's cleaning it right now.
So you just feel right at home now. Kansas City Fed. The Kansas City Federal District noted in a comment that bankers cited higher debt service cost and declining borrower cash flow as key risks facing their commercial real estate books, particularly for loans maturing in the near term. Commercial real estate, we've talked about that repeatedly. Higher debt cost and lower cash flow. That's never a good combination.
No, not as far as I know.
In other words, the Fed is basically stating it's now on notice that unless it cuts rates, a commercial real estate crisis is just waiting to happen. There was another comment from the chemical sector, which is kind of interest to me, I guess. My undergraduate's in biochemistry. The economy absolutely slowing down. Less optimism regarding the first quarter of 2024. So there's a number of industries, areas that are increasingly showing concern, increased joblessness, wage cuts, etc. Manufacturing's getting hit. Big manufacturing report came out this week, the ISM report. It was sad as well. It's now the ISM report, 50 means production is neither increasing or decreasing. So a number above 50, that indicator is increasing. A number below 50 means that indicator is decreasing. Well, this week, the manufacturing index came in at 46.7, a full point below what was expected, 47.6. So manufacturing is still continuing to contract. Employment in manufacturing fell to 45.8 from 46.8. So employment is contracting. Production itself fell to 48 from 50.
Do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt you because I'm going
No.
to. Do you think that the reason that the employment fell is because lack of purchasing and the higher price of goods
Well,
or raw materials?
companies aren't producing as much because they aren't selling as much. They're not getting the orders.
Right,
And if production is dropping, inflation is defined as more money chasing fewer goods.
right.
Well, even if the money supply is flat and you have fewer goods, that still can lead or encourage inflation.
Just in the bedroom's fine. I can put them in there later. Sorry, I'm having
You're fine.
conversations.
WAP.
I know, right? Sorry. It's not that kind of night,
Yeah.
but I'm
We're
here.
pretty low key around here. You got to admit. The Bitcoin fear and
Come
greed
here,
index
Pop.
is getting higher. People are getting more greedy. I think they're getting more and more concerned about their finances and paying a hell of a lot more attention to it than what they used to.
All right, here's our special guest.
Is
Have a
this
seat.
the legend? This
It is.
is the legend.
Let me get this in his ear. Wait, is that the right one? Yeah.
I can hear now.
Can you hear?
This is the legend that we've been talking about for months. This
Yeah.
is Ellen's
I hear you.
grandfather.
Yes,
Good to
this is
see you.
my grandpa, who I call Pop.
You're
Carson says
kind of
hi.
the pop of the channel.
You are. You're like everybody's grandfather.
Yeah.
Yep. He's okay with that.
Ellen has spoke very highly of you.
Well,
Very.
I'm glad. I don't know why.
Well, she is very gracious, very kind, but she's also modestly honest.
There you go.
So
Nothing
She
wrong
does.
with that.
she does love you, and we're glad to have you. Put a face to the name. I don't know if you'll remember or not. We met a year ago. Been a while.
Almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So it's been a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Y'all two came by and stopped. Yeah.
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 Well,
remember.
I just didn't. My hair's a little bit shorter. I've gotten even prettier, so I didn't know whether you'd recognize me or not.
Mine's real short.
Yeah, I'm still hanging on to mine. So
He's got some. It's just fuzzy.
that's all right.
Some in the back. Got some in the back.
Melissa has been just in love with you.
Huh?
Melissa,
Yeah.
I can see the family resemblance. See, we look alike.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw-
she's the one that said you were famous, pretty much.
That I was what?
That you were famous on this channel.
Internet famous.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing a picture of a older man, looked bald, but who would always argue he had hair. So he took a piece of paper and put it on the top of his head and took a close-up picture. and there were little fine hairs holding the paper off his scalp. So he was like, see, I do have hair.
There you go. I have a few. I can feel them,
They're there. They're fuzzy.
but they don't grow. They just stay there.
So you don't do the Michael Jordan with the razor, keeping it clean
No,
and shining,
no.
polished.
I think that I forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when that happens.
What?
I just forgot what I was going to say.
Oh,
Um,
About hair, about
oh
pop.
yeah, I said, oh, I was going to say you're jealous because you have to get your hair cut every like 4 or 5 weeks. You wish you had that problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a mixed blessing. I kind of like having hair, but if I started to lose it, I would just do the Kojak thing and just clean it all off.
That's a big nugget.
Do you have
It's a
one of
big
these?
nugget.
Okay. All right.
Well, I wanted him to come. I don't know how long he wants to stay, as long as you want to.
Well, I'm ready to leave.
Okay, well, you can go. I love you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pop. I'm glad y'all got to see him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's not much for center of attention. He's not much for the webs.
He tells funny jokes, though. Just random funny jokes.
When he's in the mood.
hmm He, we were in Best Buy. I got him a new phone. I'm sorry, I'm off track now. We got him a new phone today at Best Buy, and we're standing in line waiting to get it. And they had a thing of smart water bottles, a display. He said, he looked at me, he said, where were they educated? I was like, I don't know. Anyway,
Well, glad he agreed to an appearance. And that
hmm
was an uncompensated appearance, by the way. We don't pay for talent.
nope.
So I hope you're having fun and everything's going well. Otherwise, I know you're running around a bunch with the phone and other stuff, but
I am. We've almost got it all worked out.
good.
Oh, if you ever, okay, I just gonna give a plug and not a plug at the same time. Mint Mobile, it's great. It's on the Verizon network. It's $15 a month. And so I went on the website because right now Pop has like a monthly, it cuts off after 28 days. He has to get it done again. And he has to go to Walmart. I was like, screw this, we're not doing this. And he was paying $30 a month. So Mint Mobile was 15. I said, great, give me a year's worth. Well, they sent me 4 SIM cards, each for 3 months. I told them it was one line, and they decided I needed 4 different lines. I had a long conversation with Mint Mobile about this today. And I was like, so now we had to return 3 of them, or they had to cancel 3 of them. And then we got to put one into his old phone tomorrow and then so we could transfer his number. It's a mess, but if you ask for a year, they will send you. They think you want 4 lines. Just FYI.
Thought you were going to give us a good story about Mint Mobile.
Well, it's cheap and it's on the Verizon network, which works great around here. But I was like, Ryan Reynolds needs to get his shit together on that one.
Well, I'll tell him next time I see him.
Please do.
Back to the numbers.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's glad to have him on. You were talking about the headline number that everybody's crowing about, the GDP. But then you've got all these little numbers in the background that present a vastly different story. And that's, to me, the important part. It's not as catchy. It's not a great sound bite. It actually takes a little thought to look at all these numbers and see, how they compare. But if you want to invest, if you want to know when and how and what to invest in, this is the information that helps you make better decisions. Carson, Ryan Reynolds is a Canadian. Maybe I'll be next to see him.
Well, Carson, you let him know my disgruntledness about all this.
Yeah, he just strikes me as the kind of guy it'd be fun to have a scotch with.
I can see that.
With him and Blake.
Blake.
Lively?
Oh, sorry, I forgot who his wife was. I don't keep up with all that stuff.
They have a really hilarious Twitter relationship.
You told me about that.
Yeah, it's like, on one of her birthdays, he, on Twitter goes, "Happy birthday, babe. Love you." And he posts a picture, but the picture is him and cut off with about a fifth of her face. So you're just sitting there going, yeah, that's it. And they keep throwing these little jabs at each other on occasion. So it's really a cute relationship. Happy for them. But back to the data. Talking about the ISM report, Chris Williamson of S&P 500 Intelligence stated U.S. producers continue to focus on cost cutting by trimming headcounts and have now taken the knife to payroll numbers for 2 consecutive months.
That's what I just said.
Barring the early months of the pandemic, the survey has not seen such a back-to-back monthly fall in factory employment since 2009. The decline in employment could feed through to the weaker consumer spending and also reduce wage bargaining power. So you've got some major undercurrents in the economy that are just the exact opposite of a booming economy. Chuck's saying, hey, he's a little jealous. And if you look at factory orders, they've only risen 3 out of the last 18 months. That's not impressive. You've got weakening manufacturing, weakening productivity numbers, and that's a pressure on inflation along with the weakening dollar. We talked about the weakening dollar a week or two ago. As the dollar weakens, it costs more dollars to buy the same foreign good, which is inflation. So anything you buy that's foreign made or has foreign made components is going to cost you more as the dollar continues weakening.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
So, and y'all feel free to ask any questions, but if the world's economy in general is going in the crapper, why is inflation still so high? I mean, it seems like everybody's coin of choice is losing value, and everybody seems to be having a hard time with. Well, China's economy is going in the crapper.
Yes.
Britain is not doing much better. Ours is. Canada's leading in the same direction. Why is it that these raw materials and goods are so expensive still? I can't hear you.
I was yelling at the dogs, trying to get them quiet.
Okay.
It's not a simple answer because there's a lot of influences on the dollar. For example, we talked about the BRICS countries several months ago, moving away from the dollar, using other currencies to buy oil and food and conduct trade in. So that's less demand for the dollar. That makes it weaker. The Fed decreasing rates or interest rates dropping in this country, that weakens the dollar. That attracts less capital, makes other currencies more attractive. the
Appreciate it.
um,
Joy said she's purchasing up for both of us.
amount of money being produced to cover federal spending.
I know.
Supply and demand. The more that's produced, the less value it has, the less purchasing power it has.
I'll be glad to.
So you've got a lot of moving pieces.
I sure will.
There's usually no one piece that's
And
solely
you,
responsible
Joy.
for the overall trend.
Uh,
But
Yeah,
the
I just figured
dollar,
if the trend was being spread around throughout the world,
well, the thing is, the
maybe
dollar,
it's a slower effect.
no, the dollar's been
No,
the U.S., been the world's reserve currency. It's the
right,
currency of international trade. Well, fewer and fewer people are using it. More and more purchases are being done in other currencies.
right.
So that's the major de-dollarization trend that's going on. And the fewer countries that use the dollar, the less demand there is for it. The
Sky
more
Rick,
the
yeah,
U.S.
work on that.
government
Hang on.
spends, the more dollars that are produced.
Clay, I need you to go to your settings in StreamYard
And
and go to your um, audio
yeah,
and then hit echo cancellation.
it's already hit.
Well, maybe it's me. Let me try it. There's Sky Ricky. I don't know if you were on earlier. Um, I'm at my grandfather's and there's all kinds of people doing all kinds of things around me. So there's going to be a little bit of feedback just from my background. And I apologize. I've done everything that I possibly can to try to reduce it. So I'm sorry. And if you go back, you can see my grandpa.
Yeah, we Ellen is actually at her
Grandfathers.
grandfather's, I mean, at her grandfather's, and is using, are you using your iPad, your computer,
My laptop with
your
my
laptop?
AirPods.
Okay. And so um, technology is a little bit different, a little bit more background noise with her. There's 3 or 4 family members there as well tonight. So got a little bit more chatter in the background as well.
And my grandfather is watching TV right there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And it's a small house. So not a whole lot of places for Ellen to go hide. What else in the economy? Jobless claims surged to a 2-year high. Continuing claims, people that are staying on unemployment increased. Highest level since November of 21. Sky Ricky, no problem. So nice of you all visiting him. He's a lucky man.
Well, thank
It's
you.
really been a good relationship for both. He's obviously benefited a ton, and it makes Ellen really happy. So it's
It does.
been good to see.
Yeah, we were separated for about 17 years because of my mother, but that's a whole different conversation. So I hadn't seen him in a long time since 2019.
Yeah, it's nice to have family. And Carson, back to cutting meat. Was going to say something, but I'll let that one pass.
Oh, y'all are just going to derail this whole thing, aren't you?
So we've got conflicting data, counterbalance of all sorts of different things. You've got wages stagnating. You've got housing prices falling. Did I mention housing prices are falling? Even existing homes are starting to fall. Energy prices increasing. How will that all balance out? Probably what we're going to see, at least for a little while, is a more targeted inflation. You'll see food and produced goods rising, housing lower, energy stable or increasing. Probably long term increasing greatly as coal plants are shut down, as nuclear plants are shut down, and demand increases. You know, some of this even could lead to a bout of disinflation, where prices decline instead of increasing. And that sounds kind of cool. Only problem is that is the economy's worst enemy. Prices declining is horrible for the economy. Now, why is it horrible for the economy? Well, for example, home prices. As home prices decline, more and more people default on their loans. They're not going to maintain a mortgage payment if the house price is 80% of that value. They have a greater incentive to default, and they do. That in turn causes huge problems with the banks, which that in turn causes huge, you get the idea. Just think of 2008 when we had deflation in housing prices. So that is something the Fed absolutely wants to avoid. Now, a little temporary adjustment, you've got a housing bubble, prices come down a little bit, all well and good, should. Prices stagnate for a while, perfect. But if there is a severe and prolonged deflation, that could be very problematic. So that's something you want to keep your eye on. Chances right now are slim, but they are never zero. Now, also, looking at data, particularly data that the Federal Reserve looks at, this is something called the near-term forward spread. And this is this site is basically maintained by one of my former students who now has his PhD.
Daniel, right?
Yeah, Danny Soquez.
Mm-hmm.
And he and a friend of his put together this and maintain this chart. It's basically the future 3-month interest rate 18 months from now minus the current 3-month yield. Now, all that gobbledygook just basically means the spread between what's expected in the future and what it is now. And that has proven to be a very, very significant indicator of recession. If you look at the graph, you can obviously see when the in here. These gray areas are recessions. And you'll notice that recessions generally come after the line goes negative and begin when it starts turning up. It's been a very reliable indicator. And if you'll notice where we are right now, it has gone negative and has just started turning up. So is that significant? If the past is prologue, and keep in mind, the Federal Reserve pays great attention to this spread. They do their own calculation, but this is one of their most important indicators. So something else to keep an eye on. Other indicators. This is a kind of an unusual plot of the inversion between the 10-year and 3-year Treasury. Inversion means that the short-term rate is higher than the long-term rate. Normally, the further, the longer maturity rates are going to be higher. But right now, the short-term rates are higher than the long-term, so we refer to that as an inverted yield curve. Well, these peaks you see in the blue are the amount of inversion. The black line you see is the S&P 500 index. And if you look at the inversions, you can tell that they are closely associated with a fall in the market. That normally the market starts falling when the peaks, shortly after the peaks begin and as they increase. So here we are now, and you can see the degree of inversion is extremely high. And the market overall has dropped from its earlier peaks. Now, we've had a little bit of a rally this past week, but indicators like this, which have been fairly consistent, would indicate that's what we call a dead cat bounce. Now, we've mentioned dead cat bounces before, but if you're new, a dead cat bounce is like, if you've got a dead cat and keep it around for a few days, it kind of bloats, becomes kind of like a basketball, and you can take it and drop it on the ground and it kind of bounces a little bit. That's kind of what you see, in some of these. If you blew some of these up, you can tell that the market had little increases even while it was in an overall downtrend. Again, information. Another indicator would be leading economic indicators. Here you've got in the blue the change in the leading economic indicators, which is just a collection of different indicators. And then you've got the darker gray line, which is GDP. And as you can tell, as the leading economic indicators start to increase and eventually go negative, the economy follows suit, normally about 6 months behind. So here, the economic indicators have been negative for a number of months consistently. Now, they've flattened out the last couple of months, but still strongly negative. Another indicator that recession is either occurring or very, very close. So bottom line in all of this, you can look at the one number GDP, or you can look at what goes into it. You can look at numbers underneath. We also talked about how GDP should be very close to GDI. Historically, they move together very similarly. Well, there's a great divergence between GDP and GDI, and it's only worsened this month instead of drawing closer together. There's just so much questionable about the GDP number. And that's the big point. So when you see somebody touting GDP, I'm not going to sit here and say they're right or wrong. I don't think the economy's booming. I still am keeping my powder dry. Take that for, whatever it's worth. Even if I look at banks, we talked about a few months ago how banks were bleeding deposits, particularly after SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, defaulted in March. You saw soaring amounts of money leaving the banks and going into money market funds or treasury bonds, short-term treasury bonds. Well, this uptick has resumed. Again, not a good indicator for a prospering or booming economy. The amounts flowing into banks are almost as high as they were during the SVB crisis, in the 2 weeks following the SVB crisis and bankruptcy. This hurts the ability of banks to stay in business fundamentally, but it also hurts their ability to lend. Again, contrary to a booming economy.
And Clay, let me ask you this: essentially no one wants to buy our debt. They can't even sell it to Americans hardly anymore.
Well, since rates have risen, that's changed.
Has it?
Yeah.
I thought I just heard the other day that it was still not great.
they've had a couple of bad auctions in the long end. The short end is doing pretty well.
Okay.
So people aren't interested in, the 20, 30-year debt,
Mm-hmm.
but the T-bills and the shorter notes are drawing pretty decent attention at the auctions. We had a failed 30-year auction a month ago. Very little demand. It was a big bust. We talked about it on the show, how the primaries had to step in and buy it because there wasn't enough outside demand. And the spread jumped 10 points in one day, which is highly unusual. But on the short end, and the reason is with rates being at 4.5% or 5%, you get a three-month treasury bill or a 1 or 2 year treasury bill at 5%. That's not bad if you're worried about the future of the economy or the markets. Locking in a 5% rate for a while, whole lot better than a 10, 20% loss.
Yeah, true.
So, looking at this, you can see the demand for
See ya. Not they. Sorry.
for money market instruments has soared.
Have a good one.
And this is just another graph, but this one a little harder to see. There's a little red line, down here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the level of bank deposits. And you can tell, going back to March, right in here, you see them start dropping significantly. And if you, pick out points every, month or so, you can tell that they are continuing to decline. Obviously not with the rapid pace they did in March when SVB failed, but they're continuing to decline. Well, along with this, you've got the bank loan program started by the Federal Reserve, the BTLP, Bank Term Loan Program. And here's when SVB failed and you started seeing the run on banks. Well, the Fed came up with this program in a hurry to make loans, one year or short-term loans to banks. And you can tell it jumps here. Well, if you notice, it's still increasing. It's still increasing. And it's still increasing. The key about this is very expensive money for banks. They're having to pay 6% interest on this money. That means they don't have a choice.
And they pass the savings on to you?
Do what?
And they pass the savings on to you?
What savings?
Exactly. So loan interest is higher and no?
Yeah, well, there's no loan demand.
Mm.
Even mortgages are crashing. So banks can't afford to pay 4% or 4.5% to all their deposits.
Gotcha.
Because their income is 3%. But they're still having deposits withdrawn because they're only paying 0.5%. And in order to cover those draws, instead of selling assets that they have very deep losses in, they borrow money from the Fed at 6%. So it's very expensive. And this program ends in March.
It doesn't seem like a program that could be effective. I mean, because if they're paying so much for the cash to keep in reserves, how do they reconcile that?
Well, the reserves actually has a technical definition. This is really not reserves.
Well, I mean, but you have to have, I know, much money to bank for your loans, but they have to have that cash in order to
pay their depositors.
Right.
They don't have a choice. Because, for example, if they're a $5 billion bank and they have, just for easy math, let's say $5 billion in deposits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can't afford to pay 4.5% to all those deposits.
Right.
because they're only earning 3% on their assets. They can't sell their assets because the assets are at a loss, teeter-totter.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, bonds, you have an interest rate and a price. As
Mm-hmm.
interest rates go up, the price of the bonds go down. So interest rates have gone up. So the bonds that the banks own are worth less. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So they can't sell those assets without taking a loss. So if they have 4 billion in deposits and 500 million walks out the door, they had some cash so they can fund part of that, but they have to borrow the rest from the Fed through this bank term lending program. But the price of that money is very expensive. And the program ends in March. They have to repay these loans by March. So what happens in March when none of the banks have the money to repay the loans?
Well, that was kind of my question.
Yeah, that's kind of the $1 million question.
I mean, that was kind of like if they don't have it and they're paying so much for it, then what happens when it ends?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're not certain of. How's the Fed going to handle that? Is it going to force the banks to default and let them be bought out by bigger banks, or is it going to extend the program? If it extends it, keeping the 6% rate is killing the banks.
Then they
It's just
still
a
won't be able to
slower
pay it back.
death. It's just a slower death than selling their assets. So, when I talk about losses on assets, here's the quote unquote unrealized losses that banks continue to accrue on their balance sheet. These are bonds and mortgages that they own in their investment portfolio that if they sold, these are the losses they would take. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's disproportionate for sure.
So,
I mean,
well,
they
this
would
is
lose a
by month.
ton.
This is by month. This isn't number of banks. This is by month. This is time
Right,
down here.
right. I'm just saying if they did sell them, like January, I think that's January. Sorry.
No,
Um, that
this would be
line where it
last.
starts going down.
Yeah, this would be last month. So,
Okay. So it's three. Okay, it's
yeah, this is
quarterly.
zero.
I was thinking months. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this line is zero. And then this starts in March of 21, goes through um, last month.
Okay, because I saw that
Actually,
I saw March, April, and I missed the 3 months in between April and well, what? April, May, June, July, August. Okay, never mind. I'm confused because it's January, February, March.
yeah. But the point is, here's what's happening to the value of their portfolio.
I'm confused. It's okay.
So if they tried selling off their assets, this is what they would be selling and take huge losses. And remember, banks aren't built to take losses. They don't handle losses well. It can put them out of business.
Oh,
So
that's
instead
20.
of
Okay.
selling assets and taking the loss, they're borrowing the money from the Federal Reserve at a very expensive rate. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it's 2021 and 2022. Sorry. I thought it was
Yeah.
2023 to 2024.
Yeah,
And
I actually had
predicting.
meant to take it to 2023, but I apparently cut it off too short.
Oh, okay. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, my bad.
Hmm.
But the trend continues. You get the idea. So
Yeah. Hmm.
if you look at bank stocks, now here's March of 22 when SVB crashed.
Hmm.
But if you'll notice, since middle of October, end of October, bank stocks have rallied. Now, with
Well,
what I just showed you with unrealized losses and increasing reliance on the Fed term loan program and run the loss of funds to money markets, does any of that sound bullish for bank stocks?
can you play that up just a little bit, please? I've had to make my screen as big as I can get it, and I still can't hardly see it.
Is that better?
Thank you. Yes.
And the part really focusing on is this part here. This is kind of middle end of October.
Mm-hmm.
This is last Friday, yesterday.
Okay.
So, been kind of a nice little rally in bank stocks. Well, does any of the information I've given you indicate that there ought to be a rally in bank stocks?
No.
No, certainly not. Risk is still very significant, but the market's oblivious to it. Market is just, thinking, rates are going to be lowered. They'll be lowered quickly. All of this will be done and we'll get free money again. That's not happening. That's not happening. And, these people are the same ones who bought AMC at $300 and $400.
Oh, good Lord.
What happens in March? Don't know. Carson, I think it was earlier, mentioned something about Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember exactly what it was. I'm looking for it here. But
I found it.
Bitcoin has rallied for the third month in a row as the halving approaches. It's back up over 38,000 and is close, approaching 39,000. Ethereum also is up 12% in November, which outperformed Bitcoin.
Yeah, Carson said the Bitcoin fear and greed index is getting higher. People are getting more greedy.
Yeah, people are always greedy. They always care about their money. But, gold, Bitcoin, and Ethereum have rallied. Gold broke 2,000 for the second time in a year, up from its 1,800 lows in October. So all of this paints it's like a Picasso of economics. It's very, very inconsistent data. There's just no consistency right now.
Everyone feels that way right now.
I would like some more money. Yeah, that is one of those name those tunes in one note kind of thing. Did you ever see that old show?
Yes, name that tune.
Yeah.
I think it was actually 3 notes, but
some people could do it in one note.
not me.
They would, throw out a brief description and then ask people how many notes they needed to identify the song. And whoever threw out the lowest number got the first chance.
Gotcha.
And some people would be like, just from the hint, they would go, I can name that tune in one note.
Gotcha. I think Carson's having some issues.
Planning on sticking my pork in some beef later. I'm not touching that.
Smackety cheese. I don't even know what smackety cheese is.
Don't even, me either. Smackety cheese made for dinner. Kiddos are eating and the 4-year-old will be going to bed soon. Smackety cheese. I don't know what that is, but that just almost sounds good. But I say almost only because it's Carson.
Yeah, I know. You never know.
Never know.
You never know.
So bottom line, do you invest in the stock or bond markets or not? I can't specifically tell you what to do as far as myself. I'm still holding in cash. Got a little bit in Bitcoin, some in Ethereum, but cash right now is paying 5%, no downside risk. And there's still a lot of significant risk in the economy and in the markets. So,
and Melissa, when we actually do release the beginning investing videos coming soon, keep this opinion in mind, if that makes any sense. It's not for all times and places, and it's just a general beginning investing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You know, if you're beginning investing, the important thing is to get started. You know, if you've got a few $1,000s and 20 years to go, if your few $1,000s drops 10 or 20%, it's not a big problem. If you're 5 years away from retirement and it drops 20%, it may be a big problem. So, you know, a lot of this is relative or judgment. And for people who are more concerned with risk right now and, you know, maybe nearing retirement, I would urge caution.
Or just don't have the money to lose
Yeah. If you
until
don't
the
have the
market comes
money,
back up.
yeah, because if you make investments, you will have good days, good months, bad months. That's just part of being in the market is it will fluctuate. But over time, the fluctuations end up working out in your favor if you have the time.
But as an investor, and this is just your opinion, this is not financial advice. If you felt the market was getting ready to take a turn downward in a major way, would you go ahead and start investing now?
If I was starting out with $50 a month, I would go ahead and get it set up
Okay.
and do it.
But
If
if you
I
had
was ultra conservative, I would go ahead. You can start it up and you can put it in a money market fund. But I would definitely go ahead and get it started and start putting money in that money market fund. And then in 3 months, 6 months, if the market drops 20%, I would take that and move it to a stock fund.
okay, but if you have like let's just say a beginning investment of $3,000, would you pop it in the stock market right now?
I would probably put it in a money market
Money market.
just for a few more months until either I was very concerned that, yes, the economy was booming, growing, doing well, bank crisis was growing past, rates were starting to be cut, and all the hopes, dreams, and wishes of the untwit were being fulfilled. If they're not, you'll be glad you kept it in cash because you'll be able to buy the stocks a lot cheaper.
Yep. Buy low, sell high.
That's the idea over time. And there's no guarantee you're going to buy it at the absolute bottom or sell it at the absolute top. But if it goes down 10 or 20%, that's normally a good time to start buying.
Oh, listen, even Clay, who was a financial advisor, I guess a personal financial advisor. Is that correct?
No, I would put together private placements and manage portfolios. And then I was a derivatives trader.
But then you also but you were certified financial planner.
Yeah, I got the
Yeah,
CFP.
yeah. But even I've seen him, kicking himself because he didn't hold on to it long enough, or he could have made more money if it was just a few more days, or he didn't sell it when it actually got to. I mean, it's never going to be perfect with the market. You're always going to think, man, I should have waited. Man, I should have done this. I should have. As long as you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and the worst is when I was right and still got screwed.
GM.
Couple different ones, but GM's a good example. Give you a hypothetical case. You've got this young, brilliant, extremely talented with great hair.
Would you just stop telling on yourself there and
Finance PhD student who is kind of irritated with GM and has, been paying attention and notices that GM's in a pattern. Goes from 18 to 22, 18 to 22, 18 to 22. Does this repeatedly. And he thinks, there's an opportunity here. So it's up at 22. So he shorts 1,000 shares. Couple of weeks, it's down to 18. Closes the position, makes $4 a share. Not bad.
$4,000. Not bad.
Another couple of weeks, it's back up to 22. Does it again, 2,000 shares. Another couple of weeks pass, booms, back down to 18, 17 and change. Closes it out. Things are looking good. Goes back up to 22, does 5,000 shares. Goes back down, boom, cool. 10,000 shares. I mean, like feeling like you have found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is just mindless free money. It cannot fail because GM is run by idiots. It was bleeding cash out the wazoo. It had huge unfunded pension liabilities, and it made crappy products. It should have been somewhere around $8. So shorting it at 22 was a pretty damn safe bet. Goes back up to 22, shorts more. Has to run to class. Class is an hour and a half. Comes back from class, and my phone has blown up. I've literally got 10 or 12 calls on that phone, and they're all from my broker. And I'm sitting there looking at it, thinking, what the hell? So I get on the computer real quick, dial it up, and a hedge fund manager by the name of Kurt Vorian has said he wants to buy GM. So what happens to a stock when another company is trying to buy it out? It soars. Yeah, so it was up to like $26. So I was losing $4 a share, which is not an insignificant amount of money considering the number of shares.
It's 40,000. Yeah.
So, but I'm sitting there thinking, lousy management, bleeding cash out the wazoo, huge unfunded liabilities, makes a crappy product. Kevorkian's an idiot. I'm right. So what do you do if you have the courage of your convictions?
You sink more money into it.
You double down. Double down. 27, 28. Phone starts ringing. 30. I know I'm right. I can't be wrong. There's just no way GM is worth 30 a share. So what do?
Double down. Triple down.
You go again. 31, 32, 33, 34. No moss. No moss. Can't do it. Bailout. My ass was candy apple red. 35, 36. And then Kevorkian comes on and says, hey, y'all, I was just kidding. I don't want it. Well, at that point, I jump in, short some more, and, make a little bit. But net, I lost probably 80 grand on that.
How long did that take?
A year later,
between when you
all happened. That all happened within a week.
Shit.
A year later, GM was bankrupt. I was right. And I still got my anatomy handed to me. That's the irritating thing. But that's the market. And there's, I could have, when I first put in the order, before I went to class, if I'd have just put in what's called a stop loss, I would have lost a couple of grand and that's it and been out. done, clean, whatever. Could have sat back, watched the show, whatever. But I was in a hurry. Got lazy, stupid, whatever you want to call it. All of the above. So my advice to you, don't get lazy or stupid investing. If you learn nothing else from, investing, my investing comments, learn that.
He's still mad about it. He's still furious.
I will be
Years
mad
ago.
the day I die. It just,
Yeah. He talks about that at least once a year. I hear that story, and he just
yeah,
mad.
it just eats at me.
As Melissa
So,
says, I triple dog dare you.
yeah. It was somewhere around there that I finally gave up accepting dares. For my whole life, I never refused a dare. Did some kind of stupid things, but never, there's a reason why I've had back surgery and other stuff. But yeah, I'm comfortable turning down temptation.
You know why you have all those surgeries? Because you
Being
take the
young and
eye,
stupid.
you take the eye off the bollard.
Take the what?
Eye off the bollard. Isn't
Not
that
familiar.
that thing, that post?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was a joke, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on a bike and actually ran into a bollard. How many of you are able to do that? Going downhill and smack into a steel pole that's stuck in the sidewalk to keep cars from
Running
turning up.
over you.
Yeah. Ran right smack into that thing,
See, so you took
cruising
your
downhill.
eye. You took your
Huh?
eye off the bollard. You took your eye off the bollard.
Well, I never had my eye on the bollard.
Exactly. You took your eye off.
Yeah, I was just going down this path and next to a state park, and they had conducted a controlled
Wipe out.
burn. And the
You're
forest
welcome.
ranger's house was in the middle of all this acreage with the forest fire, low grade forest fire going on. And I was, just sitting there looking at the house thinking, don't know if I'd want to do that or not. And then just wham, hit the bollard, flipped over it, on the asphalt. My foot came slapping down, fractured my heel bone, the calcaneus, caved in some ribs. Yeah, just, it was not a good time. Can you explain a RRIF? You talking about a railroad rehab? If you are, I'll be glad to take a shot at it. Do you have a specific question concerning it? Just let me know. If you want to email me, moffatonmoney@gmail.com, you can do that, but I'll be glad to pick it up.
When she typed that, I was thinking RFID. I was like, that's not what's going on. Isn't that like
Okay.
railroad rehabilitation and improvement financing?
Yeah, when you turn your railroad savings plan. Isn't that right?
Do
Yeah.
what?
So yeah, be glad to try to throw out a few ideas on that here soon. Maybe Tuesday night. Don't know if you're open Tuesday night or not. I'd like to try to do it at a time when you're available, so you can ask me, any other questions or alternatives that you've got.
Yes, because we like questions on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Registered Retirement Savings Fund turns into an RRIF in Canada. Huh.
Yeah, be glad to. Let me do a little digging on a couple of issues. and then be glad to. Couple other little trends going on in the universe. EVs, electrical vehicles, falling out of vogue. Ford just announced it's cutting $12 billion in EV investment. They largely as a result of the UAW contract they just signed.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Ford had to lower its EBIT and free cash flow projections. EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes. Earnings is net income. So net income, add back in the taxes, add back in the interest expense. That gives you EBIT. EBIT. CBNC also showed that the UAW contract will increase the cost of each car by $900. There you go. Also saw in the news this week where 3,900 car dealers wrote to President Biden asking him to, quote unquote, tap the brakes on trying to force EVs on the nation. They pointed out that demand for EVs is falling, not keeping up with production, and EVs are stacking up on their lots. They can't sell them. So the whole clean industry is taking it on the chin this year. Remember last week when we pointed out that ESG funds were closing? Well, the white line, solid white line, is an ETF of clean, quote unquote, clean energy stocks. And you can tell from March of last year through Friday that they've been getting hammered pretty consistently. Not a whole lot of life to them. This, along with the ESG funds closing, it's easy to say that the bloom is off sustainability. Now, to me, I'm glad to see this because I hope it's an indication that the market is returning to more historic valuation methodologies where cash flows matter, not some sloganeering for, a product or an idea or an ideology, not some fad product or red edit investing. With the Fed pumping free money as it did for 12 years, it didn't matter what you bought, whether it was clean energy, whether it was stocks, bonds, crypto, any crypto, housing, it all went up. You couldn't pick a bad investment. Everything went up. It's what happens when there's free money. Valuation, cash flow becomes less and less and less important. Now, I hope those days are gone. There's still more cleansing to do in the markets, but we've seen some signs such as this. Housing is starting to turn, even in crypto. NFTs. Do you remember us talking about Bored Ape Yacht Club? The NFT generator? Well, in March, April, May, crypto, stocks, everything was all the rage. But as you can tell, it's steadily been trending down. The prices for NFTs have been trending down. The first NFT sold for what was it? I think it was 1.3 million. Guy tried to sell it 5 months ago. Couldn't get $10,000 for it. Ouch. So, hit a few comments here. Carson, Sky, I didn't realize you were also up here. Sky, Montreal, Carson, Edmonton. We're gonna have to chip in and get these folks a hotel room. Melissa, Carson, you're in Runkleland. How's old Ian doing? Hadn't talked to him in a while.
Still on.
Hope he's doing well.
I was going to make a comment about Carson's earlier comment when you said hotel room, but I think I'll leave that one alone.
Yeah, it's funny. We're getting reaching out to Canada here. It's kind of cool. But gotta give credit where credit due. A lot of that's due to Rob and Ian. A lot of the subscribers to the channel come from there. So
Yes, they do. Y'all are hilarious.
So anyway, you've got idiot stocks like Bored Ape Yacht Club finally, coming back to some sense of reality. NFTs are dying. So a lot of the trash is getting hammered. I already mentioned that home sales are declining. They dropped another 1.5% in October. Year over year, sales are down over 6%, 6.5%, somewhere around there. That whole index has been negative for over 20 months. In addition, 30-year rates have started dropping. They're now down to about 7.9%. They got up to 8.5, 8.6 in October. So, down more than half a point in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So we're seeing a lot of cleansing, as I refer to it, going on in the markets. And that's a good thing. People need to get focused on what's important. Melissa, we all found Rob and Runkle through other channels too.
That's true.
That kind of makes me want to ask, I wonder what channel really started
Ricada.
it. Yeah.
Ricada.
Ricada, you think?
Oh, I know. Yeah, he was the first quote unquote law tuber. And then with the I have forgotten the name, the Wisconsin guy, the kid that was self-defense. Y'all help me. You know what I'm talking about. He had like an AR.
Yeah, I can see his face. Can't think of his name.
So Ricada did that one, had Alita and a bunch of others on. And then when Johnny Depp, that trial, Rittenhouse, thank you. Rittenhouse. Alita was the first one to kind of do her own thing, and then that kind of started a thing. And then it just sort of branched off, and there you go. It was a web.
So with all this going on, what do you look at? What do you stay away from? I would heartily recommend that you stay away from, any investments that are, in the dollar, investments tied to the dollar. With the soaring debt, the increasing rates, it's just not a good combination. Also, keep in mind, higher for longer. Powell has stated this repeatedly, and I believe it. I don't think the Fed will dramatically cut rates anytime soon. They might do a 1/4 point cut, but they're going to leave it higher for longer. And we've talked about previously, inflation, the battle against inflation historically takes 5 to 7 years. Normally it's not tamed in a year. To get it constantly below 2%. It dips, then it rises, it dips, then it rises. Investments that usually do well in this kind of environment would be like commodities, gold, copper, platinum, aluminum. Probably will be a good one.
Military.
Yeah, I like copper and platinum as countries try to fix their electrical grid or continue with EVs, electric motors. Either way, aluminum and copper are going to be in high demand. If you really care about currency, you could use international currency ETFs. As the dollar weakens, international currencies will rise. Or you could look at businesses that do a lot of their business internationally. Their international sales are priced in foreign currency, and then when they repatriate it back to the U.S., it has to be converted into dollars. So that'll be a bump up there. And weaker dollar generally spurs increases in commodities historically. Also, with commodities, you have the ongoing predilection to try to limit food production by the WF group and the UN, number of governments.
Yep.
Supply and demand applies to agriculture as well.
Mhm.
And keep in mind, like Ellen mentioned a little earlier, these are all phasing investments. They are good for a given time, a given situation. They are not buy and hold forever. If you want to just
Sorry.
go ahead.
Now, Clay teaches in his classes about the, primary, secondary, tertiary, etc. Effects of an event that's happened that's like a big deal in the world, and then going through and thinking about everything that affects this, and then going like to the tertiary, or just, it's not a quadriary. What's the fourth? It's the
Let me give my beloved example.
your potato example.
Chernobyl.
Yeah.
I was trading when Chernobyl blew up, and back then you didn't have the internet. So, but I have a Reuters screen, and some of the news starts flashing across, and so I run to the library and grab a map, atlas, and try to find Chernobyl. Knew it was somewhere in the east of Russia. Finally find it. Little town Paprika. Can't think of Papaya. Can't think of the exact name of it. I forget. But anyway, found it. And so I was looking and, trying to hit a couple of the references. What was this area noted for? What did it produce or whatever? Nothing. And, we knew the wind was blowing to the west, with the radioactive clouds blowing west. And I was looking, to the west of it. Germany was, far away. Clouds were headed there, but the Ruhr and all, don't know, 500, 600 miles away what the impact would be by the time it got there. But all of a sudden it hit me. There's no heavy industry or anything in this area. It's agricultural. And what the hell do Russians grow? 2 crops, wheat and potatoes. And I'm sitting there thinking, potatoes. Who the hell wants to buy potatoes that glow in the dark?
Not me.
There's probably very limited demand for those. So if the major exporter of potatoes and wheat is out of business, what happens to the supply? Supply is cut 20 or 30%. So what happens to prices? Will boom. So, when Chernobyl first hit, the immediate thought is to try to, short or sell nuclear stocks and companies that produce nuclear parts, GE or whatever. But by the time you hear the news, it's too late. That's the primary effect. And the traders are going to hit that in an instant. It's too late by the time you get on your phone and try to make the trade. But what you oftentimes can do is if you can figure out secondary effects, like, okay, I'm too late to short nuclear stocks, but how many people are thinking that the potato crop's going to get hammered? Not many. So I start buying potato futures. Secondary effect, radioactivity with the potatoes. And then in Russia, what are potatoes used for?
I know. Vodka.
Vodka. Tertiary effect. So buy vodka stocks. Held on to them for a month. Things ended up doing quite well. But oftentimes in investing, you're too late to capture the primary effects.
Mhm.
But normally you have a pretty good opportunity to capture secondary effects or tertiary effects. So when you see, a big crisis hitting in the world, yeah, you want to think what's the primary impact for investment purposes, but then what does that tie to? What is that a primary effect for? Well, that's the secondary effect. And then that secondary effect, what is it the primary effect for? That would be the tertiary effect. Does that make sense? Profit on money. My grandfather's watching The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. No, that's me. It's not me, but me.
Well, it's me. It's me. We know it's me.
The original. He is so stinking cute. Best Grinch ever. Is he playing the Grinch game?
I don't think so. He's just enjoying it. I love it. I mean, he could be watching something like Die Hard, which is not a Christmas movie.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
No,
The
just because the
voters have
movie
ruled.
occurs during
Yeah.
Christmas does not mean it is a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
Oh, GB's getting his photo with the Grinch tomorrow. That's so cute.
We're expecting a copy of that so we can show everybody Tuesday night.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Aw.
we like to show off our pets.
Oh no, he doesn't. Mm-mm. He abstains.
Don't worry, Ellen will cover for him.
Probably. Yes,
We'll
definitely
send it.
send it.
You better.
We want to see it.
That'll be cute.
Uh-huh.
Also, we probably need to get some more of those treats.
Yes. I think
Uh,
we have the website on the emails. I know
So-
you posted on X, Insta, or not Insta, X and Twitter, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you do now? Do you tweet or do you X?
Well, Mr. Mux said it's not a tweet. A tweet was like a very short little thing. Now you can put as much as you want to on there. So he calls it a post.
I guess.
He said he's looking for suggestions if anyone has a better idea.
My suggestion would be to change the name back to Twitter.
But then and make the post shorter to tweets.
Yeah. No, keep that. That was a good idea, but
Well, that was the point that like they're not like little. He said like birds tweeting. He said it's more of a you can write more. I don't know.
other stuff. I mentioned, for example, previously the efforts to cut food production. I mean, we've seen in the Netherlands the effort to cut 5,000 farms. We've seen in Ireland the effort to cut 200,000 head of cattle. Internationally, right now, rice is in a big shortage of 15-year highs in terms of price. You've got a global food crisis growing. Rice prices alone are up over 50% since 2022.
That's why
Now-
you said you wish we had that bag of rice still.
Yeah.
You didn't tell
Yeah,
me
we
that
had a 50-pound bag of rice, and Ellen gave it away because
you were diabetic and I didn't
Yeah.
want you to have any processed grains.
it's not processed. It was raw.
Well, it's not brown. It's just
It's just
I
white
kinda-
rice
well,
instead of
well,
brown.
bleached and all that stuff. I kind of freaked out when I found out he had diabetes. And
Sorry,
could have
and
died.
tent was good, but it was good rice.
It was good rice.
I agree with you, Melissa. It will always be the Twitters. So, rice is soaring, and a lot of this is due to the El Nino effect, either some extreme drought or extreme rain in different parts of Southeast Asia, Pakistan, China, Vietnam. So their rice production has been severely cut. Now, the interesting part of this is the last time this happened, because even in Arabic lands, they eat a lot of rice. It was last time this happened, it was associated with the Arab Spring, which was, I don't know if you remember, but there was a series of protests across the Middle East in the early 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
It gave rise to Benghazi, rise to ISIS, overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. So you've got that. You've got China shifting to a net food importer, particularly with meats,
Especially fish, except they
fish,
won't buy
beef,
Japanese fish anymore.
pork. And in the U.S., the number of cattle and hog farmers is falling. Cattle herd alone is down 6% since 2019. And cattle farmers are raising the fewest beef cows they have in 50 years.
Well, they had a culling in Texas, didn't they?
They've had several all over. Just this week, we saw a UN proposal for Western nations to cut their meat consumption to save the planet, of course.
I'm not eating bugs. You can forget it.
Here you go. Eat less meat is the message for the rich world in food's first net zero plan. Now, their point is that if you go through the article, Americans eat about 280 pounds of meat a year.
Can you blow it up a bit?
No.
I know it's more to, you can't. Okay. Oh,
But I can't
look.
show you the whole article.
Well, you can scroll down through it.
No, this is just a picture. That's not a link.
Mm.
It's Bloomberg. It's a subscription service. So
I thought you had a Bloomberg subscription.
I do, but not supposed to really, not supposed to give it out for free.
I just thought you could get the article.
No, they don't mind, like showing a headline or whatever, but they kind of particular about not giving away the whole article.
Gotcha.
So Americans eat about 280 pounds of meat a year. The commission recommends no more than 35 pounds a year. So from 280 pounds to 35 pounds a year. The regulations they've got will limit the travel of the livestock. They're always complaining about the transportation cost of livestock is way too high. So won't be able to transport them over long distances, which will further limit production and herds. It'll set additional requirements for how farmers adapt to food waste. I'm not sure what exactly that means. There is food waste that the farmers get to produce less.
And when do they plan on implementing this?
Huh?
When do they plan on
The
implementing
UN
this?
is developing the guidelines that they want Western nations to adopt.
Like now?
Soon. There will also be
Hey,
fertilizer restrictions.
Carson, you better save that meat, boo.
The UN has for years called for individuals to ditch animal-based diets because it has a high impact on the planet. They argue individuals should choose plant-based foods, which, according to their calculations, reduce a person's annual carbon footprint by 2.1 tons. Now, remember, they'll blow, 15, 20 tons jetting around telling people to reduce their carbon footprint.
Yeah, and their private planes.
Yeah, and they'll buy beach houses while they tell people not to because the ocean's rising. The weird thing to me is this whole, cows and methane gas production thing.
You mean the farts?
Yeah, cow farts.
Mm-hmm.
These people are arguing that cow farts produce methane. Granted, they do. But how do cows produce methane? Well, they eat grass and green plants. They're vegetarians. So if humans eat plants and vegetarians, what are they going to produce?
More methane gas.
Secondly, grass and green plants die in the winter. And as they die, they decompose. And as they decompose, they produce methane gas. So the cows are just simply decomposing this same material, producing the same methane gas that's going to be produced in a couple months anyway. There is no net increase in methane. So it's just kind of a ludicrous argument to begin with. Bottom line is you have these elites who will continue to eat their meat and their caviar and whatever else and
While
jet
the little
around the
people,
world, travel and vacation, but they will continue to argue that you shouldn't enjoy any of this to save the planet, of course. So all of this is going to be fun.
yeah, I can't imagine turning Clay into a vegetarian.
I love vegetarians. I do. I honestly think most everyone should become a vegetarian. Because can you imagine what that would do to the price of meat?
I knew there was a reason behind this because I was
So
like, Moffat is not going to give up meat. That is just not a thing.
I'm like, all y'all become vegetarians. Listen to the beloved elites. Do what they say. But it's hard to eat a good vegetarian diet. You have to focus and select your plants and food carefully. Can't just eat spinach all the time.
No, and then your body can't even break down a lot of the chloroplasts.
I mean, I've got some good friends, dear friends, very, people I just love that are vegetarian. And more power to them. I appreciate they have the courage of their convictions and that they are true to their beliefs.
I am proud
Much
of you,
respect.
Melissa. You give GB his steak. That is perfect. You're doing it for your own health, but you are not totally against it if you feed it to your dog. I get it.
Yep.
I respect that.
And Melissa is just a great soul. She takes care of GB. I'm kind of thinking if I die, if I believed in reincarnation, I'd want to come back as Melissa's dog.
Mm-hmm.
GB is loved. There's just not any doubt about that. And Melissa, Chunk is, offering to volunteer as tribute if you need another one.
You cannot give away my dog.
I volunteer as tribute. And then Tallulah comes in and she goes, I volunteer as tribute.
No, you put my dogs back down.
They don't want to be down. They want to irritate.
You do not get to give away my dogs. He does this. He's done this for 5 years.
Because look at this. Tongues in the face. And I can't describe to you where those tongues have been or what they smell like.
Melissa says you won't be sorry, Clay.
No, that I'm pretty confident of. She gives Green Bean some good loving. She dotes on the little guy. Carson, I found Runkle first because pews, then found the rest from there.
Pew-pews.
Pew-pews. Don't know what that is, but I can go pew-pews.
Pew-pew. Pew-pew. Are you looking at the screen? Pew-pew. No, you have no idea. You're not watching me at all.
I am
Pew
watching
pew
him. Yes.
pew pew. He is a firearms person.
Oh, I thought Hughes was a broadcaster or host
Pew pew.
that just went by the name Pews.
No.
Okay. That'd actually be a cool name for a channel.
Pews.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta explain some things to Clay. He's getting older.
Yeah, I am not the most YouTube savvy person out there. Freely
No,
admit it.
but no, but you are the most Instagram and Twitter savvy person.
No.
I'll find something or I'll say something. He's like, "Oh, that's what this means," and I'm like, "How did you know that?"
Yeah, now I read through Twitter a lot, but in terms of doing some of the stuff on it, no, I just straight post. We'll upload a pic. That's it.
I figured you'd heard that on Instagram or something.
Yeah. But in terms of having any real, skills in terms of manipulating the media or the data, yeah, no. Not
No,
gonna.
I'm just saying that you're. I'm not saying okay, you're savvy at the whatever, but you're involved enough that I figured you would know what that meant.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram have kind of become, to me, the town square, particularly Instagram, in terms of public speech and exchange of ideas and information. It's become a news source, depending on who you follow and who you listen to. And I'll view, I don't know, anywhere from 30 to 50 different news sites a day. I mean, my job is kind of based on information and reading and keeping up with, certain types of information. So I spend, a fair amount of time gathering, reading information. And Twitter's become a kind of a valuable resource in that regard. Instagram as well. There's a lot of people that will post informative stuff on Instagram, not just, pictures of them at the prom or whatever on vacation.
Yeah, he just sends me recipes about what he wants to eat.
Yeah, I subscribe to a couple of recipe channels and some of them look pretty good. You got to
He's like,
admit,
"Oh,
some of them have been good ideas.
they have. Some of them I've been like, oh no, nope, 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 nope. A bacon flavored bacon burger with a bacon bun. No. I mean, I like bacon with meat. Nope.
Yeah, you
There's two
take a
ways about
burger
it.
and then wrap it in bacon and fry it. And I'm like, that just sounds good.
No, one of them you weaved the bacon together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you covered the burger and fried it.
Yeah.
No, no. GB wants that bacon burger. I
GB has
bet.
good taste. He needs to educate Miss Ellen.
I think Melissa would probably make him one too.
I will definitely be seeing you soon. Have bacon burgers will travel. So,
Good Lord.
all right.
I know you would. It's a good thing I have your
Definitely.
address. Clay's probably coming tomorrow. So I want a bacon burger.
Delta's ready when I am. Well, listen, y'all. I had a second section, but rather than try to cover it, I think I'll just pause or maybe save it for Tuesday night.
Sounds good.
Talk about a little bit about freedom and its relationship to poverty, pro or con, friend or foe.
Melissa
But
said she and Green Bean will be ready for you.
Melissa, you're just a sweet spirit,
Yes,
just a
she
sweet
is.
soul. You really are. Do love you. Do love all of y'all. Carson, love you as much as a straight man can love another. Don't want you getting too carried away there. But no, seriously, y'all are great. Y'all are some good folks to spend some time with.
Absolutely. We appreciate it.
Very much so.
And thanks for being here with me at my grandpa's.
In in our less than studio conditions.
Correct.
But like I said to begin with, we're kind of an informal group anyway.
But we do the best we can.
Hope you all will have a good rest of the weekend, a good Sunday.
Please.
For
We can't
me,
wait to see you Tuesday. But
yeah, for me, school's coming to an end this week. Finals are next week, so I'm close to enjoying my Christmas break. Did I mention I have a great gig?
a whole month off.
Yeah, I love my job. Sky, thanks to you for your time. Hope all of you have a great evening, great rest of the weekend. Thank you for being with us tonight. Our time is
Yes,
up.
please. Sorry, I put my computer on.
We thank you for yours.
And we will see you on Tuesday.
Tuesday night, be there.